Shame is a tool. They teach it so you forget your rage. Carl Jung. Before we begin, here's a small ritual. Write in the comments one word that accurately describes your current state. Sign it, and let's get started. Your emotions are not yours. They were designed, packaged, and fed to you, drop by drop, like a drug. Before you could even name what you feel, they were already programming it. Through cartoons, through school, through stories where the good character smiles, endures, forgives, and dies quietly inside. Through songs where pain is romantic, sadness is beautiful, and anger is always wrong. Then came the real factory, the screen, your phone, your feed, your endless scrolling graveyard. You were taught to react, not feel, to perform, not live, to consume, not notice. Your joy became the product of algorithms, your sadness, a tool for marketing, your attention, the currency. Every emotion that could lead you to truth was labeled toxic. Anger, repressed, rage, pathologized, deep grief, silenced, despair, treated like a glitch in the system. But euphoria, likes, applause, followers, that's allowed. Fun is encouraged. Smiles are sold. Parties are broadcast. But pain? Sit down. Scroll again. Don't ruin the vibe. You think you feel, but you were trained to simulate emotion, like a puppet trained to dance. When you see a tragic post, you feel sad. When you watch someone fail, you feel better. When you post your highlight, you feel proud. None of it is rooted in your core. Your nervous system is hijacked. Your chemicals triggered on command. They know how to make your dopamine spike, how to make your cortisol rise. They've been studying you, feeding you, shaping you. They've made you addicted to emptiness, dosed with entertainment, paralyzed by passive pleasure. They don't want you to feel rebellion, or raw, sacred love, or holy grief, or the quiet, fierce power of real clarity. They want your feelings to be noise, not a compass, confusion, not direction, reaction, not intention. So they show you the lives of others, better, happier, shinier. So you want, so you ache, so you feel not enough. Again, again, again. That cycle kills truth, because truth comes in silence. Truth comes when you're not being told what to want, who to be, or how to feel. Your real emotions, not the programmed ones, are not cute. They are wild, messy, sacred. They don't fit in captions. They don't trend. They break patterns. That's why they're dangerous. They can make you quit a job that kills your soul. Leave people who drain your fire. Stand up and scream when everyone's still smiling. They can wake you up. That's why they hide them from you. They drown you in a storm of simulated feeling. So the real one never surfaces. But the system isn't evil. It's just efficient. Emotions are energy, and energy is power. Control the emotion, control the power. Keep you numb, keep you laughing, keep you clicking. That's the plan. And you've forgotten the taste of real sadness, the stillness of grief, the sacred anger of betrayal, the deep knowing behind fear. You've traded them for filters, for easy laughs, for short videos with loud music, for memes that hide the cry beneath the joke. You've become emotionally obedient, predictable, profitable, but somewhere inside you, buried beneath all the stimulation, something ancient is still alive. It doesn't want to entertain. It doesn't want to impress. It doesn't want to scroll. It wants to feel, fiercely, fully, freely. And that is exactly what they fear. They taught you that emotions are just decoration, something you put on your face when needed, a polite smile, a small tear, a quick laugh. Anything more than that becomes too much, too dramatic, too sensitive. But that's not because emotions are dangerous. It's because they're powerful, and power is hard to control. From the beginning, they told you how to feel and when. Be proud when you achieve something, but only in ways that others approve. Be ashamed when you fail, but not too much, just enough to stay in line. Be excited, but never too angry. Be sad, but only for things they say matter. They didn't teach you how to feel. They taught you how to perform feeling. And so, your emotional world was slowly replaced by templates, by filters, by prescribed reactions that could be easily understood, measured, and used. Because once they know how you feel, or how you're supposed to feel, they can control what you'll do next. Buy this, watch this, scroll here, comment now, obey. They don't need you to be dead inside, just confused enough to need direction. They feed you tiny emotional jolts through the screen. A happy video, a sad story, a pretty face, a shocking headline. Not because they care how you feel, but because each emotion is a hook, a click, a dollar. They've turned your inner world into a market, but real emotions don't sell. Grief doesn't trend. Pure, slow rage doesn't monetize. Stillness doesn't keep you scrolling. That's why they taught you that those emotions are wrong, that your anger is immature, that your sadness is weakness, that your silence is something to fill immediately with noise, preferably with them. So you lose touch. You forget what your own anger feels like when it's not about proving something online. You forget how grief moves when it's not wrapped in aesthetics. You forget how deep your joy is when it's not staged for an audience. The system doesn't want you numb. It wants you responsive, not to life, to them, to the notifications, to the signals they send. It wants you predictable. And that's exactly what you become when you stop owning your own emotional truth. They don't want you to explode. They want you to simmer quietly, just low enough that you keep functioning, keep smiling, keep producing, keep pretending. Because the moment you truly feel, not react, not mimic, but feel, the whole thing starts to fall apart. That's the risk. Real emotion doesn't ask for permission. It shows up, full force, and breaks the script. It ends conversations. It starts revolutions. It shatters the fake sense of order they've worked so hard to create. That's why it's dangerous. And that's why they gave you rules, not for your safety, for theirs. Stay calm. Be polite. Don't overreact. Meditate the anger away. Repeat your gratitude. Focus on the positive. They call it self-regulation. But most of the time, it's self-erasure. Because real healing isn't about staying calm. It's about facing the chaos you've been avoiding. Real presence isn't about constant happiness. It's about feeling everything, fully, even when it breaks you. Especially then. You weren't born numb. You were made that way, by repetition, by reward, by fear. But under all that conditioning, the truth still lives. Your body still knows. Your heart still remembers. Your gut still reacts, even if your mind has forgotten. That memory is your way out, and you won't reach it by thinking. You won't find it in books or courses or quotes. You'll only get there by feeling what they taught you to suppress, by allowing what they told you to reject, by choosing to come back to your own emotional authority, no matter how inconvenient, how intense, or how wild it feels. Because that's where your clarity begins, where your fire lives, and where the system no longer works on you. You were never meant to live this way. Waking up tired, reaching for your phone before you even breathe, scanning other people's lives before you've entered your own, comparing, reacting, absorbing noise that doesn't belong to you. By the time you stand up, your nervous system is already hijacked. Your feelings are not yours. Your thoughts are not yours. You've become a satellite, receiving data, but disconnected from your core. This is not a glitch. It's the blueprint. The system wants you emotionally preoccupied, but spiritually hollow. Wants you chasing meaning, but never sitting still long enough to find it. They flood you with stimulation, not to entertain you, but to distract you. Because silence is dangerous. In silence, you might hear the truth. And truth does not serve the machine. Your emotions are no longer connected to lived experience. You cry over fictional pain, but stay numb to your own. You feel envy for people you don't even know, yet can't feel pride for surviving your own darkness. You celebrate others' wins, while quietly mourning your own sense of direction. The system did this. It rewired your emotional compass. North became south. Pain became weakness. Rage became shame. Sadness became a glitch you had to fix, not feel. What they never told you is that emotions are not problems. They're messages, signals, warnings, invitations. You were built to feel all of them, fully, deeply, freely. Emotions are not obstacles to your growth. They are the road. Every time you suppress what's real, you delay your own becoming. But how do you feel what you've been trained to avoid? You begin by noticing how loud the noise is, how often you escape, how quickly you reach for distraction when discomfort shows up. You begin by choosing not to scroll when the loneliness hits, not to binge when the anger rises, not to numb when the fear returns, not because those things are evil, but because they drown the signal you most need to hear. Your pain is not random. It's sacred data. Your fear is not failure. It's sensitivity sharpened into awareness. Your sadness is not a problem. It's proof that you still care. Even after all this, you still care. That's your power. That's what the system fears most. Not your strength, not your achievements, but your presence. A human being fully in their body, fully in their feeling, fully awake, is impossible to manipulate. Because that kind of human stops asking for permission, stops explaining themselves, stops looking outward for validation. That kind of human becomes deeply unpredictable. And that breaks the pattern. You don't need more knowledge. You don't need more productivity. You don't need more affirmation. You need emotional sovereignty. You need to feel without being edited, to cry without being fixed, to rage without being medicated, to love without being afraid. It'll make you weak. This isn't about healing. Healing is a word they turned into a trend. This is about remembering, returning, reconnecting. You were never supposed to feel good all the time. You were supposed to feel real all the time. There's a difference. One keeps you chasing. The other brings you home. Your emotions are not the enemy. The distortion is the programming, the conditioning, the belief that you're only worthy when you're easy to be around, when you're smiling, when you're stable. But stability isn't truth. It's not always authentic. Sometimes the most truthful thing you can do is break, because in the breaking, there is space. In the chaos, there is signal. In the mess, there is honesty. And once you let that honesty in, even just a little, the fake world starts to lose its grip. The mask starts to fall off. And what's underneath, though raw and trembling, is finally alive. The world you move through is not real. It's a carefully managed projection, a collage of filtered faces, artificial moods, and simulated meaning. You know this already, not in your mind, but in your body. You feel the hollowness when you scroll through perfect moments. You feel the quiet ache when nothing touches you deeply anymore. That's not depression. That's clarity trying to get in. You've been surrounded by illusions for so long, you started calling them reality. People don't connect. They perform connection. They don't feel. They display emotion like it's content. Their lives become staged. Their emotions rehearsed. They laugh for the camera. They cry for the views. Meanwhile, something inside them, and you, is starving. But the worst part isn't that the world lies. The worst part is that you started lying to yourself. You told yourself this is fine, that you're adapting, that this is modern life. But deep down, you know adaptation without awareness is just a slow form of self-destruction. You were never meant to live in this simulation. You were never built to digest this much noise, this much comparison, this much surface-level emotion. Your system is ancient. It needs space, depth, presence, silence. But instead, it's flooded with performance. You're emotionally malnourished, spiritually dehydrated, and you've been taught to call that normal. You think you're free, but your strings are showing. Every reaction, every impulse, every need. Predicted, calculated, harvested. Your sadness becomes data. Your anger becomes engagement. Even your silence becomes part of the algorithm. They're not watching you, they're shaping you. But even in this constructed world, pain is real. When someone betrays you, it cuts. When you feel unseen, it stings. When you're drowning in comparison, it suffocates. The stage might be fake, but your suffering is not. That's the paradox. The more artificial the world becomes, the more deeply your nervous system reacts. And the more you try to ignore it, the more it grows. The escape isn't in switching platforms. It's not in curating a better feed. It's not in becoming more successful within the same structure. The only way out is in. Inward, downward. Into the places you've avoided for years. Into the wounds you've silenced. Into the emotions that don't look good, don't sound spiritual, don't fit the narrative. Because there's something sacred in the pain you keep postponing. It holds truth. It holds memory. It holds the version of you that existed before all of this. Before the world told you how to feel, how to be, how to belong. That version still waits. Underneath the persona, beneath the distractions, inside the quiet. It doesn't want a better brand of emptiness. It wants realness. Raw, difficult, unfiltered aliveness. The kind that doesn't fit into content. The kind that breaks through the noise with something ancient, something human, something untouchable. And once you touch that, even for a second, everything else starts to feel unbearable. The lies become too loud, the pretending too heavy, the scrolling too dull. You begin to crave what's real, even when it's painful. Especially then. That craving is not weakness. It's your soul remembering what it was before the edits, the roles, the programming. And that memory, that inner pull, is your compass back to yourself. Not your image, not your feed, not your brand, your actual self. Unpackaged, undesigned, unfiltered. Just you, breathing, feeling, remembering what it means to be human again. They didn't just hijack your emotions. They trained you to crave the hijacking. Every ping, every like, every update feels like a pulse. It tells you you're still alive. But that's not life. That's addiction. Emotional addiction. They made you believe that without constant stimulation, you're missing something. That silence is dangerous. That boredom is failure. So now, You don't even notice how often you reach for the noise, how often you avoid stillness, how often you chase feelings that don't belong to you. You're not choosing your emotions. You're reacting to programming, reacting to headlines designed to provoke, images designed to arouse, posts designed to make you feel envy, urgency, anger, anything but peace. You can't find clarity in a storm you didn't start. You can't know yourself while running on autopilot. That's the trap. Emotional dependence disguised as connection. They made you feel connected to the world while cutting you off from yourself. But there's a way out. It's not glamorous. It won't go viral. It's quiet, intimate, radical, and it begins with this. Reclaim your attention. Not just your time, your attention. Where it goes, your emotions follow. Where your emotions go, your energy drains. And when your energy is gone, they own you. So how do you take it back? Not with willpower, not with shame, with strategy, with awareness, with small, steady acts of rebellion against everything that keeps you asleep. Here's how. 1. Digital silence. Start with 1 hour a day without screens. Then expand. A morning without phone. An evening offline. Eventually, a full day. Let your system breathe. Let boredom return. That's where your real emotions will start to rise. 2. Emotional fasting. No news, no social media, no commentary. Just for a while. Not because the world doesn't matter, but because your nervous system needs detox. You can't feel what's true while being flooded with what's urgent. 3. Track your cravings. Notice when you reach for your phone. What were you feeling before that? What did you want to escape? Don't fix it. Just observe. Awareness creates interruption. Interruption breaks patterns. 4. Build emotional language. Most people have only 3 words for what they feel. Good, bad, tired. That's not emotion. That's survival. Expand your vocabulary. Learn the texture of your feelings. Give them names. Precision leads to power. 5. Face the silence. Sit in it. Let it stretch. Let the discomfort speak. Everything you're trying to avoid is in that silence, but so is your clarity. If you never stop running, you'll never know what's chasing you. 6. Remove false inputs. Unfollow anyone who triggers emptiness. Mute the noise. Cut the sugar from your emotional diet. What you consume becomes what you feel. What you feel becomes what you think. What you think becomes who you are. 7. Practice conscious feeling. When anger comes, feel it without performing. When sadness hits, let it wash through you. Don't distract, don't post, just be with it. Let your body do what it's designed to do. No one taught you how to feel, so now you teach yourself. 8. Make decisions from stillness. Don't decide anything important when you're triggered, when you're tired, when you're chasing validation. Return to center, then act. That's emotional maturity, not suppression, but precision. 9. Create sacred space. A room, a corner, a ritual, a walk, somewhere you go to feel again. No noise, no role, no goal, just presence. Without it, you'll keep being pulled outward. With it, you return inward, again and again. 10. Forgive your past reactions. You were programmed to react, to overthink, to seek, to please, to escape. That wasn't weakness. That was adaptation. Now you choose differently, not because you're broken, but because you remember who you were before all this. This is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming honest. You don't need to master your emotions. You need to stop outsourcing them. When you finally sit in your own energy, without input, without permission, without a script, you'll remember something the system tried to erase. That you were always enough. Not when you're liked. Not when you're performing. Not when you're productive. But here, now, unfiltered, alive. And in that moment of stillness, you'll feel it. Not the programmed emotion, not the artificial high, but the quiet, deep presence of someone finally coming home. You. We're sure you've discovered plenty of value, so subscribe now and stay connected.